Hello, everyone. I know how hard it can be to reach out to a friend who may be struggling with an eating disorder or addiction. Today, I hope to help. Mostly the questions that I get is, what can I say to a friend? So I feel like we need, and
Okay.
I don't know how to say this,
You're going to say
how to ease into it.
I would just say, like when we come back into it, because how do we cut out? I think you can just start a new topic because we can just kind of cut it. And you can say, I get a lot of questions about what to say.
Okay.
And so, you can give some of your insight. Like in my experience, I had people who were jokingly, and that doesn't work. So, that really hurt my feelings. And then we'll just kind of.
HeyKayli, BYS 0003, scene 1, take 1, marker.
Hello, everyone. Today we are sitting down with Katie because both Katie and I get questions from you guys asking about how to deal with a friend that might have an eating disorder, or if you are struggling with an eating disorder, how you can talk to your friends. So I have a few experiences with friends that have had eating disorders and friends that didn't understand my eating disorder. How about you?
Same. My first experience, I was in high school, and I had one of my closest friends at the time. We played sports together, and we were fast friends. She struggled with an eating disorder, and I remember knowing because she had to go to treatment, and so she left for a summer, which meant she missed a lot of the different stuff that we were in together. And I was really worried, and I didn't understand, and so part of the way I remember coping with it and trying to help her was making sure she ate every time we were together. So I was like, hey, let's go grab some food. Hey, are you hungry? I'm hungry, and I thought that by doing that I was really helping her. And looking back on it now, I almost laugh at myself because I'm like, holy jeez, that wasn't helpful at all. But
I'm sure a lot of people feel that way, that
Yeah.
that's what they need to do to help a friend out that is having a hard time struggling with anorexia, that, you just help them eat.
Yeah, you just need to eat, which we always say now. I even say to all my the parents that come to my office, and even a lot of my followers, I'm like, it's not about the food, and we can't just eat. Now I know that, but at the time I didn't understand.
Right.
So, and how about you?
I had a really great friend of mine that was struggling with bulimia at the same time that I was. And we formed, this connection, and she was my best friend. I told her everything. So when I was having a bad day, I could tell her exactly why I was having a bad day. And this was when I was 17, and I started struggling with my eating disorder when I was 15. So, it was a few years later. So I feel like it really helped to have her there to communicate with. But also, I feel like maybe, and I might be wrong, maybe we helped each other continue to have an eating disorder because we understood each other.
Yeah, and it can go both ways. You can have a friend, and I'm sure all of you out there are thinking, yeah, this is what's happened to me. Is you have a friend you kind of glom onto because we have a shared experience.
Right.
You know what I'm going through. I don't have to explain it.
Right.
And that can feel really nice, and it can feel really cozy, but we can almost feed it.
Right.
Because then I did this, and it can be a competition.
Right.
Because our eating disorders are very competitive.
Right. And I don't feel like it was ever that way at all. We really both loved each other and had a lot of concern for each other. I worried about her well-being, and I know that she worried about mine. So it's kind of interesting, and we both were able to overcome this, which is so amazing. And when I started the Body Series last year, I heard from her a lot, which was so great, knowing that she was supporting me now, in our recovery, and she was proud that I was putting my story out there, which was really nice too.
Yeah.
So proud of her.
Yeah, and I think there's two ways. We were kind of talking about this a little bit before, how there can be two different ways that we cope. You can have a friend, and you can, if you both suffer, you can feel like, oh, we're connected, like we have something in common. Or you can have a person that might try to reach out to you because they know that you're struggling, or they want to talk about it because they want that connection, and you can be like, no, like, this is my thing, you don't understand, and we get like, we get frustrated, and then and we can almost want to out them, or put, we can do that. And
I do have a personal experience with that as well, and I feel so bad about this. I like being nice to everyone.
Yeah, of course.
But this was a mean moment of mine. I had a friend of mine tell me that she was struggling with an eating disorder. And to me, I felt like she was competing with me. Or she was trying to take this thing that was mine and and make it hers.
Yeah.
And I was so upset. So I was like, I am telling my mom. So I went to my mom and I told her that she was struggling. I was like, you need to call her mom right now. And it wasn't out of concern.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I think in the end, it was good that her parents knew because she got help. And it was good, but I feel bad. And it ruined our friendship, you know.
Yeah, and it can, and I think that's what we're going to talk about today is just how do you talk about it? And what do you say or what do you not say? And even if someone comes to us, we can sometimes feel like they're trying to take something that's ours. And we do it, and I always tell my clients, I'm like, yes, obviously that could have hurt her at the time and everything, but that was your eating disorder, that wasn't you.
Right.
And sometimes we have to just make that division because we're not bad people, but there's this negative thing in our head that's telling us all these nasty things all the time, and it can bring out the worst in us. And we will do things that we're like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that, you know?
Right. I look back and I'm like, I was so mean. That was so mean of me.
Exactly, but it wasn't you. It was your eating disorder. And at the time that felt, you were very defensive. That felt like she was too, because your other friend, to be honest, might have been closer to you in general.
Right.
And so you're more open to it. But someone that's a little bit outside, you're like, hey now, you know, no.
Right.
So.
Right. And then I had, when I first started, not when I first started struggling, but when I first started losing weight, I had friends that could be really mean. I had one friend that I remember came up to me. I was leaving school and I was in the parking lot. She ran over to me. I was getting in my car and she was like, "You're so skinny." And I was like, you know, I felt like,
Yeah, really.
what are you talking about? And she was like, I have always wanted to have an eating disorder. I think it's so awesome that you have an eating disorder. I remember I was just like, I don't have an eating disorder and you're so weird. You know?
And things people say.
Yeah,
it's
people
like,
can be really mean. So.
and I think in that world of eating disorders, I think that's really where like the negativity and kind of the dark side of the internet comes into play, which is why I created my channel and stuff, is because there's a lot of people promoting it out there, and that just is so.
Right. As hard as it was for me to go through what I was going through at that time, I can't imagine how much harder it is nowadays with the internet, with all the information you can get, but also all of the bullying and all of those things that you guys are dealing with. I think it's amazing that anyone can get through high school.
Yeah, it makes things a lot harder.
Right.
And it can make things a lot more convoluted. And then we wonder and we think to ourselves, well, how do I approach someone or how do I talk about it? Because we can spend so much time on the internet looking and being anonymous because it's safer.
Right.
But then we never actually get out to talk to someone.
Right.
And so I think that's kind of why we get so many questions. So now I want to talk to someone. What do I do?
Right.
And do you remember the first time that you talked to anyone, or how did it come about with that close friend of yours?
Oh, I can't even remember. I think that she knew that I was struggling, and we just got to be really good friends before that was ever brought up.
So then when it was there,
Right.
it was just there.
Right.
I mean, the first thing I usually say to people in general, and all of my viewers are like, really, Katie? But you have to think about it first, and you have to write about it, you have to journal about it, you have to kind of process it yourself, because if we're going to talk to someone about it, whether they have an eating disorder and we don't, or we have an eating disorder and we're trying to talk to a friend or someone to kind of let them know, we need to figure out what it is we want to say.
Right.
Because sometimes we get nervous and then we just keep talking and keep talking, and then we never say what we want to say.
Right.
So
you think if you're going to tell a friend that you need to journal, and do you think that if you want to confront a friend, you should also do the same thing? So in both situations.
yeah, because I think we need to plot it out. I know that sounds kind of weird, but sometimes otherwise we miss things.
Right.
Like, do you ever have a confrontation with someone or something come up and you're like, I don't want to miss these points because these are important, you
Right.
know? And I think we need to have that. We need to have like our top 3 things we want to address and, you know, see how that goes.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like ever since I was a little girl, I have wanted to write letters because I have a hard time when you come face to face with someone remembering everything you wanted to say. So I definitely have always done that.
Yeah, and that's probably why it was more helpful with Casey to send letters.
Right, that's how we finally got over that lack of communication, was by writing letters. So.
Yeah, and that can be an easy way to go to start, and then when you actually sit down to talk to them, because I do believe that if you want to communicate with someone, you're going to have to at some point sit down and actually talk with them.
Right.
And you can start it out with a letter or whatever's most comfortable, but at one point or another we're going to have to do some face-to-face conversation. And usually I find some of the language is what people have the toughest time with. Like like you'd even asked before, I remember, like, well, how do I say it?
Mm-hmm.
Because we think, well, I don't want to say, well, sometimes I cut and then I binge and purge and then sometimes I don't and I overexercise.
Right.
And it's like, you just want to blah. But
Yeah.
that doesn't really get your point across.
And you just
so.
want to say it all and then leave. Bye.
Exactly. Okay, that was my problem. Glad we got that taken care of.
Right.
But I think that it can be really helpful to use terms like when I feel stressed out or when I feel overwhelmed, I may use food to cope.
Right. And something we've talked about before is people don't always understand the emotional side of an eating disorder. People just see that you want to be skinny and they can see it as being vain and
Yeah.
you know all of these kind of more negative things. They don't really understand that you're hurting or you're struggling, and it's so much deeper. So I think it is so good that you let them know where it's coming from.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think we need to open with when I feel this, I do this, because that gives them the connection, then they can see why it's happening, and that can also let people know how they can help. And that's part of the reason why we need a journal, because along with the things that you want to say, a lot of times when my clients will want to bring their parents in, I'm like, well, I want you to tell me what you want from them. Because if we just tell someone some information, and they might even ask, well, how can I help? You know, our husbands, our family, our friends will say, well, what can I do? And like I'm telling you, when I was younger, I'm like, you just need to eat.
Yeah,
I'll
right.
help you eat. And,
Right.
you know, but that might not be what she needed. And so knowing that I want you to check in with me, or I want you just to tell me that you're there, or whatever, come up with a few of those things. And that might take you a little bit longer because it's kind of hard to know what we want.
Right. So I think that the majority of my questions dealing with friends and eating disorders are friends who are concerned about their friends struggling, and they just want to know how to approach them and the right things to say, which is so amazing that there are such good friends out there that care so much and just want to help. But like we talked about before, it can be a really, really touchy subject. I had a lot of friends who thought it was funny to joke about me losing weight or to just say little things just kidding around, and it was devastating to me. It was so hard to hear that, and you know, it crushed me inside. I was already struggling with liking who I was as a person, and it was so much deeper than that. So I think that you have to be so careful, because even good friends that I knew cared about me, if they would talk to me about it, it was my secret.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want them to know, and I didn't want that to be a part of my relationship with them or my relationship with anyone else. It was my relationship with my eating disorder.
Yeah, exactly.
So how do we help these friends who
Who want to help.
You're right.
And it is great. To be honest, I get a lot of those same questions, and I always am like, wow, you're such an amazing friend. And it's great to have people who want to support us, because there's a battle going on when someone has an eating disorder, and it's in our own heads. I describe to a lot of my clients, I'll say, it's like we're burn victims, and even the slightest breeze hurts because we're so emotionally sensitive. All of our feelers are out because we're so stressed or so maxed. We just, you know, you feel like you could cry at any time.
Right.
And that can feel really overwhelming, and it's also scary for those close friends who love us and want to help us, and then, but oh, somebody did that and I saw her get upset and I don't want to do that. And I think the best thing we can do is just to say, I know you're hurting, I've noticed, and I'm here.
Right.
And I think sometimes that's just enough. And I know that on the other side, as a friend, you'll feel like, well, I'm not doing enough, I'm not letting her know, but you can just keep repeating that. I know that sounds really simple, but sometimes it's the simple things. And then we're not forcing ourselves into their situation.
Right.
And we're also not making light of something that's very painful. Because a lot of us turn to comedy or jokes as a way to lighten the mood when we feel like something's really hard. And that's probably what they were doing, but it really is hurtful because it's a serious issue with us, and we think, oh, it feels so bad. Like, how dare you make fun of this,
Right.
you know?
Right.
So what do you think about that? I mean, on the other
think
side.
that sounds amazing. I think that that's the best advice, just to always let your friend know that you're there for them.
Yeah, and you can keep checking in. I mean, even whenever you see them, let's say you see them once a week, you can just say, remember, I'm here, you know?
Yeah, and I think to continue to say that, but also let your friend come to you. Because I feel that maybe my friend who also had an eating disorder, you know, we felt like we could, you know, I felt like I could go to her. She never
Exactly.
forced that on me.
Yeah.
So it was just that easy friendship, that easy flow. So.
Yeah. And I think just giving it time, being there, being soft to the issue, and obviously doing what you're doing. You're reaching out, you're looking for help. You're so amazing, and that's just great, you know, because we need more people like that out there.
Right. I agree. So thank you so much. Like we said before, we know how hard it is, so we appreciate you commenting below. And we do read the comments, and we do care so much about you. So if you're struggling with anything, please leave anything in the comments. You can message us. Just let us know what you need because we are there for you. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.